Greetings, pairs over the retrogrades. On this Monday morning, here in the South, as we turn to the second half of April, AD 2024, we get an announcement from Cardinal Grech, the Synod boss, together with Cardinal Hollerich. These are the two Synod on Synodality bosses. He has said that thanks to the Synod, we are now living in the ecclesiological processes set out in the council pages, that is Vatican II. For this reason, we can affirm that it is the mature fruit of the council, a real Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology, or the common belonging to the people of God and the common dignity of the baptized. This is, as you know, dignity, a term of art following upon Infinite Dignity document released last Monday. So he used a keyword. There are three important things about this document that you ought to know. This video will be a quick run through those three items in this statement by Grech, what to expect, what's coming, what's sneaky. Cardinal Grech says, thanks to the Synod, we are living out the ecclesiological processes set out in the council pages. For this reason, we can affirm that it is the mature fruit of the council, a real Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology, or the common belonging to the people of God and the common dignity of all the baptized. So three things you need to know about this document. First thing, first sentence. Thanks to the Synod on Synodality, a conspicuously phrased institution, Francis has been emplaced to help the church to live out the ecclesiological processes set out in the council pages. So whereas Pope Francis spent the first half of his pontificate not mentioning much the Second Vatican Council, even though we knew in some ways he must be its culmination in all the worst senses, the latter half of the pontificate is now comprised of many more moments of honesty where he and his lieutenants, like Cardinal Grech, say, we are the culmination of Vatican II. So in this sense, this is the big secret about not only the Synod on Synodality, but the synodal process in general, the Synod on the Family, the Amazon Synod, the first 6 years of the pontificate, he had those synods. And now the Synod on Synods itself, they reveal, coming into the last phase of the Synod on Synodality later this year, they reveal that really what we're doing is living the ecclesiological processes set out in the council pages. What does this really mean? What it really means is completely overturning the monarchical nature of the church. And the reason, it's not stated here, but the reason they want to overturn the monarchical nature of the church is because they want to give to the Northern Europeans, the Germans, control to democratize the teaching on sexual morality. That's really what it is. And you already knew that. But the point is, this does link back to the council. Cardinal Grech is saying this week in, week out. He's not being corrected by his boss who put him there. And it's just true. We're living out the ecclesiological processes set out in the council pages. So truth number one, the Synod on Synodality is the spirit of Vatican II. It is the culmination of Vatican II. And this really can't be denied. This cannot be denied. For this reason, we can affirm that it is the mature fruit of the council, he says in the next sentence. The mature fruit of the council means that those documents, 4 constitutions, 4 or 5 declaratios, 4 or 5 decrees, 5 or 6 decrees, they were immature because they did not mean what they said. Those documents said stuff that did not of themselves overturn the church, did not inform a Copernican revolution. A Copernican revolution is any revolution where you set as the central fixture of any system, a new and even opposite center. So instead of the sun being the center of the system, Copernicus had a revolution of thought. Instead of the earth, it's the sun. If we were to go back the other way, instead of the sun, it would be the earth. This is called the Copernican revolution. We'll talk about in the second moment. But the point is, those early council documents, as all the liberals, the honest ones from the council have acknowledged, they do not, by themselves, by their own action, do what the council was there to do, what its evil lieutenants and brain trust set out to do. The processes set out in the council pages ambiguously, shaped up liturgically in the 70s and 80s, shaped into the culture of the church in the next generation in the 90s and early 2000s. And then in the 2010s and 2020s, under the pontificate of Francis, the next generation took the shape of the synodal process, which will undo the church. That's how it worked. 60s, 70s, it was about the liturgy. Lex orandi, lex credendi. Right, that came in like 62, 63. They made it formal. Sacrosanctum Concilium. We are going to change the liturgy. It took until 1970 to get the new liturgy. It took the 70s to set all of the leitmotifs and the creatures like communion in the hand. That took till the late 70s to get everywhere. That's really important. I don't buy, by the way, that the Novus Ordo was the Novus Ordo until you had communion in the hand. That's the whole purpose of making a liturgical change from the bad guys. From their perspective, the purpose of moving from the TLM to the Novus Ordo Missae was to get communion into the hands of the hoi polloi, filthy lay people. And that took until 77, 78, 79 in, Western Europe and America. The 80s and 90s were enculturating people with lex orandi, lex credendi, with this bad, new, filthy, anti-Eucharistic liturgy, and making atheists of us, not to put too fine a point on it. It was middle 80s through 2005, say. Then you got into 2005, the Ratzinger papacy, which was called a transitional papacy. They thought maybe Bergoglio would have his first go then. So there's a transitory period there. And then the third period was the latter 11 years of Francis, from the 20-teens into the 2020s, as long as they can stretch his life out. They're going to be upsetting the church with the synodal process, which is the actual mature conciliar phase. So conciliar ecclesiology changed the liturgy in the 60s and 70s, say through the early 80s, around the time I was born. I was born in 81. So I was born not into the TLM. 80s and 90s, take over the Catholic schools, make everyone disbelievers Eucharistically. And then, of course, the Ratzinger era was transitory. They were hoping to have Bergoglio, a younger, or 8 years younger Pope Francis Bergoglio in 2005. They had to wait out a Ratzinger papacy that the Sankt Gallen Mafia so desperately had striven and hoped to avoid. And you know the rest of the story. The starting in 2013, you have the proper Bergoglian Francis I pontificate. And that has been all about synodality, where where we can affirm that it is the mature fruit of the council, a real Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology. And the next turn of phrase here, after Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology, where you turn from God being the fixture, the Eucharist being the fixture of Mass, to man being the fixture of Mass, well, we're really kind of worshiping ourselves. And I'm not just talking about Mass or liturgy alone. I'm talking about the culture of the church is no longer Eucharist-centered. It's man-centered. That's the Copernican turn. The common belonging to the people of God, for one thing, this is the second big point in Grech's statement. Common belonging to the people of God in this Copernican turn is the idea of ecumenism. People of God is a term that the conciliar fathers consistently used to make all Christians count as Catholic, all Christians count as in the church. And of course, they want to share in the Lutheran heretical theology because Protestantism is the best expression of modern Arianism, more or less. It's the best expression of pick and choose what you want. Say you love Jesus, and that's enough. Say Jesus is, in this case, part of the Trinity, even though Protestants are iffy on whether his mother was the mother of God, which would sever him from the Trinity. And that's enough. That's why ecumenism is the second great moment here. We already knew it was a conciliar moment, but the Synod on Synodality is going to affirm it in bold new ways. Who knows? Maybe we will even see in October surprise in 24, something like intercommunion with Lutherans. I do not put that beyond the pale. That has been flirted with. That was part of the Gaulen agenda. I don't know. We're definitely going to see deaconesses, and Grech has already affirmed that. We're going to see non-sacramental deaconesses. That seems to be the number one item. But we might also see stuff that's more consistent with this set of phrases, the Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology, which is Lutheranism, and the common belonging to the people of God. Well, that ecumenical language points us again towards a kind of Lutheranism. All Christians are basically Catholic now. This means a total diminution of the sacraments. The third and final moment in Grech's important revelatory statement, the first big surprise is the Synod on Synodality is, properly speaking, the culmination of Vatican II. The second being the Copernican turning point of conciliar ecclesiology is ecumenism, Lutheranism. The third, the common dignity of all the baptized. Do you think, dear parish orphans and retrogrades, that this is merely a coincidence, a coinkydink, that 1 week to the day after the Infinite Dignity document was released, it's got some bad stuff in there. I told you what the bad stuff is. I don't think it's as much bad as some people thought, but it's always bad. And it was definitely setting up to instantiate that 2014 language of emphasizing the positive aspects of Skittles relationships. Do you think it's a coincidence that now he's saying the common dignity of all the baptized?